We always craved adventure, my friends and I, Liam, Maya, Chloe, and me, Jake. We'd heard the whispers about the Aokigahara forest in Japan, the so-called Sea of Trees, but it wasn't the dark tales that drew us in. It was the mystery, the raw, untouched nature of it all. We were experienced hikers, respectful of the places we explored. We thought we were prepared. We were so wrong. The plan was simple, a 3-day trek, sticking to the lesser-known trails, far from the grim reputation the forest held. We wanted to see its beauty, not its sorrow. The first day was magical. The forest floor was a soft carpet of moss, and the canopy of leaves was so dense it filtered the sunlight into ethereal green rays. It was unnervingly quiet, a silence so profound it felt like a physical presence. The air was thick, heavy, and strangely cold, even in the midday sun. We set up camp as dusk began to bleed through the trees. That's when the oddities began. Liam, our designated tech guy, noticed his GPS was completely haywire. The compass spun uselessly. No signal, he muttered, more annoyed than concerned. We should be fine though. The trail is clear. We laughed it off. We had maps. We had each other. What could go wrong? As we sat around the crackling campfire, sharing stories, a sound cut through the silence. A soft, rhythmic tapping, tap, tap, tap. It sounded like wood on wood. Chloe nervously scanned the impenetrable darkness beyond our firelight. Probably a woodpecker, I offered, trying to sound confident. But woodpeckers don't work at night. The tapping continued for almost an hour, always seeming to come from just beyond our sight, before it abruptly stopped. A deep sense of unease settled over our camp. We zipped our tents up tight that night, the forest silence now feeling less peaceful and more predatory. The next morning, we woke to find our campsite disturbed, not by an animal. Our neatly stacked firewood was scattered. One of Maya's hiking boots was missing. We found it 20 feet away, placed perfectly upright at the base of a gnarled ancient tree, as if someone had left it there for her. There were no tracks, no signs of a struggle, just the boot, waiting. A cold dread started to creep into my veins. This wasn't a prank. We decided to press on, eager to put distance between us and the strange campsite. The forest seemed to change around us. The trees grew closer together, their branches twisting into grotesque shapes that looked like grasping hands. The path became less distinct, and more than once, we had to double back, feeling like we were walking in circles. The air grew colder still, and a faint, sweet smell, like decaying flowers, hung in the air. That afternoon, Maya stopped dead in her tracks. "Do you guys hear that?" she whispered, her eyes wide. We all went still. At first, there was nothing but the sound of our own breathing. Then, we heard it. A faint whisper, carried on the wind. It was impossible to make out words, but it sounded like a woman, humming a sad, disjointed lullaby. The sound seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It rose and fell, a phantom melody that made the hair on my arms stand on end. Liam pulled out his camera, hoping to catch something, anything. As he panned across the dense woods, he suddenly froze, his face draining of color. "Guys, look," he showed us the camera's small screen. In the frame, amidst the sea of green and brown, was a flicker of white. A pale figure partially obscured by a tree trunk. It was tall and gaunt, with long dark hair covering its face. It was just standing there, motionless. We all looked up at the spot he'd filmed. There was nothing there, just trees. But on the screen, the figure remained. Panic set in. We weren't lost anymore. We were being hunted. The friendly adventure had morphed into a desperate flight for survival. We started moving faster, no longer caring about the trail, just trying to head east, towards where the sun should be setting. But the canopy was too thick. The light was fading fast. The whispers grew louder, closer. Now we could almost make out words, fragments of sentences in a language we didn't understand, laced with an agonizing sorrow. Then, Chloe screamed, a blood-curdling, terrified scream. We turned to see her pointing, her hand trembling, at a tree just ahead. Tied to a low-hanging branch with a strand of what looked like human hair was a small, hand-carved wooden doll. It was old, the wood gray and weathered, but its painted eyes, two simple black dots, seemed to stare right through us. It was unnervingly similar to a doll Chloe had as a child, a detail she'd shared around the campfire the first night. That's when all hell broke loose. The tapping started again, louder this time, faster, coming from all around us. The whispering intensified into a cacophony of voices, angry and mournful. We ran, we crashed through undergrowth, branches whipping at our faces. The forest became a dizzying, terrifying maze. I could hear Liam shouting, Maya crying, Chloe screaming my name. Suddenly, I tripped, my foot catching on a root, and I went down hard. My head struck a rock, and for a moment, the world went black. When I came to, I was alone. The woods were silent again, deadly silent. My friends were gone. I screamed their names until my voice was raw. Liam, Maya, Chloe. Only the mocking echo of my own voice answered. I was terrified, disoriented, and bleeding from a cut on my forehead. Using my phone as a flashlight, I stumbled through the darkness for what felt like hours. Every shadow looked like a figure. Every rustle of leaves is a footstep. And always, that faint, sweet smell of decay lingered in the air. Just as my phone's battery was about to die, I saw it. A faint light in the distance. Hope surged through me. I scrambled towards it, praying it was a road, a house, anything. As I got closer, I saw it was a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a single, massive, ancient tree, its branches bare and black against the night sky. Hanging from its limbs were dozens of objects, twisting slowly in the faint moonlight. They were personal belongings, a hiking boot, a camera, a small wooden doll. And then I saw her. Standing at the base of the tree, her back to me, was a woman in a tattered white kimono. Her long black hair cascaded down her back, obscuring her from view. She was humming that same terrible lullaby. Slowly, as if she could feel my gaze, she began to turn. I didn't want to see her face. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run, but I was frozen, paralyzed by a fear so absolute it felt like ice in my veins. Her head swiveled around, her neck twisting at an unnatural angle. Her hair parted. There was no face, only a smooth, blank expanse of pale skin where her features should have been. And from that faceless void, a sound emerged. It wasn't a whisper or a hum, it was a shriek. A sound of pure, undiluted agony and hatred that tore through the silence and straight into my soul. That shriek shattered my paralysis. I turned and ran without looking back. I don't know how long I ran for. I just ran until the forest spit me out onto the side of a paved road, collapsing in front of a startled driver. The search parties scoured the forest for weeks. They found our campsite. They found some of our gear scattered along the trail. They never found Liam, Maya, or Chloe. I'm the only one who came back. The authorities said my friends got lost, that they succumbed to the elements, but I know the truth. They're still in there. Part of the forest's sad, silent collection. Sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet, I can still hear it. A faint whisper on the wind. A sad, broken lullaby. And I know she's still waiting, in her sea of trees, for the next curious souls to wander into her grasp. Thank you for listening. Remember to follow 4 more stories from the edge of the unknown.